Good afternoon. This is Keith All, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about using multiple functions, uh, utilizing the choose cows function, and also explaining to you what array constants are and how we could use this in conjunction with the filter and the index function. So let's first understand what an array constant is. Now look up, when I talk, just look up at this formula right here, and I'm going to be referring to it uh, all the time. So an array constant is a set of values that you input directly into a formula. Now these values can be numbers, text, or logical values, and they are entered at as a set of elements inside of curly braces, as you can see here. For the second argument to the filter function, I have curly braces, and within that I enter in a combination of zeros and ones, and you'll understand what these mean shortly. So the syntax for an array constant, now for a horizontal array, meaning that you separate the values with commas, like as you see here, I have 0, 1, comma 0, comma 0, etc. So what this will do in this filter function, as you will see in an example, it will spill the results horizontally into your range. Now for a vertical range, if you want the results to spill vertically, then you would separate these elements within these curly braces with semicolons. Our example, you'll see we're going to be using a horizontal array. Now the filter function now is used as used to filter a range or an array based on the criteria you define. Now in this example, the range B5 through H54 is the range that we want to filter. Okay, the second argument is the array constant, and it specifies which columns to include in the result. So in this instance, a 1 indicates that the column should be included, and the 0 indicates that it should be excluded from our filter range. Okay, now this in the second argument to the filter function does indeed need to evaluate to a true or false. So this argument determines which rows or columns from the specified range, which is this range here, will be included in the resulting filter array. And when, in this case, when we use an array constant as the second argument in the filter function, Excel processes each element, which is the element of 0 or 1, in the constant array and checks whether it evaluates to true or false. Remember, Excel in formulas, a 0 means false and a 1 means true. So let's go over here to the right. Now array constant elements. Each element in array constant represents a condition for a corresponding column in the specified range. So let's see how Excel evaluates this. So if an element is 1, okay, which means true, the corresponding column will be included in the output. And if the element is 0, which means false, the corresponding column will be excluded from the output. Now let's see an example of this. Let's go over here to the next tab. I have the same formula here. Okay, so what this means is I want to filter this range B4 through H54, and I want to return only specified columns in this range. So this array constant, I'm passing it a number of zeros and ones, okay? And the number of elements will equal the number of columns in this range, which is, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm passing it 7 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm passing it 7 elements separated by columns. And remember, commas, remember I'm doing a horizontal array. As you can see here, it spills the results horizontally. Now, when Excel evaluates all this, it's going through this range and it's checking whether or not these elements are zeros or ones, or evaluating to trues and falses. Remember, a 0 is a false and 1 is a true. So in this case, I want to exclude column 1, but I want to include column 2, as you can see here. And the same thing with this is the 6th column. So I want to include the source column. So if I come over here and let's give this a different set of values, 1, let's change this to 1, as you can see what happens. Oh, let's, I edited the wrong one. Let's do this one here instead. Let's do this. And as you can see, it spills the results horizontally, and it includes more columns because I'm asking it to return the 2nd column here. I didn't update this formula, but anyways, I'm asking it to return the 1st column, the 2nd column, the 5th column, and the 6th column in the results, and that's exactly what it did. Okay, now let's go to an index example using array constants. Now let's understand what the index function does and how it will process it if we pass it an array constant. So the index function, the range here, B5 through H54, this is the range where we want to extract values from. So in other words, we want to extract certain value or certain values from this specified range. Now the row number argument in index, so you have the index, the first argument is the range, the second argument is going to be your row, and the third argument in this case is going to be the column. So the row argument is blank in this case. Now since the row number is blank, Excel considers it to be a 0, which means that it will return the entire row for the specified columns. You'll see an example of this soon. Now the column number argument, we're passing it an array constant. And this array constant has some values in it, which is 1, 3, and 5, which returns columns to return for each row. Okay, now how does Excel process this? Now the column number argument, the index function will look for columns 1, 3, and 5 within the specified range. And since the row argument is blank, Excel defaults to returning data from the first row of the specified range. Okay? In other words, when you pass a blank row and an array constant for the columns argument, Excel returns values from the first row only of the specified columns. Now let's go over here to the right. Let's understand why it only returns the first row. The index function, remember, is designed to return values from a specified or a specific row and column intersection. When you leave the row argument blank and provide an array for the column argument, Excel assumes you want to return the specified columns for the first row only. Okay, now let's go over here. Let's see an example. Okay, in the first example, we're going to be talking about this formula here that I have highlighted. And let's remember what I just said about the index function and passing in an array constant. And as you can see here, it returns only the first row. Now, in this example, we're passing an array or a range of values that we want to look into. And that range goes from the first row of this data set all the way down to the last column, last row. Okay. We left the column or the row argument blank, and we're specifying that we want to return columns 1, 3, and 5. And remember, since we're passing an array constant in the column argument, it's only going to return the first row. As you can see here, it returns this first row, 244 billion, and Texas is the third column. So let's say we want to add another column. Let's add the next, the sixth column in this range. And as you can see, it returns that next column. Okay. Now let's use a more complicated formula using these techniques that we just talked about. And this particular formula that we're going to be using, we're using an approximate match. And I just created a video, and I'll point to that video in the cards that will pop up, and I'll also put it in the description. It'll talk more in depth about how we use an approximate search within the filter function. So let's build this formula together step by step, and why it returns only this row here. So let's go down here and let's work from the inside out. So let's view this entire formula here. So we're going to first look for, in this particular case, we want to look for Walmart in this data set, and we're going to be using all these functions together to get this one row result. So let's start with the search function. Okay, and we're going to do search. And what are we going to find? We want to find Walmart. Okay. And now where are we going to find Walmart? Well, we want to find it within this range here, this column in this data set. So we're going to control shift down, control backspace to go back up. And we're going to leave the third argument empty in this case because it's optional. So now why does Excel return the pound value error and ones for other cases? Well, the reason is search will return a number, okay? And that number represents where in this range will it find Walmart, and if it does find Walmart, what position within this text does it find it? Now, in this particular case, Walmart starts as the first character. It doesn't appear later on, like here, trading investments over here appears, investments appears later on in this text phrase. But Walmart starts with in this text phrase, so that's why it returns 1. So how can we use this to correct this? Well, we can now wrap it with the isNumber function. So we're going to go isNumber, and we're going to check the value of this search, okay, if it equals to a number. And when we do that, isNumber is a logical function and returns a true or false. So now we got values of trues and falses here for this. So now we're going to pass the trues and falses to the filter function. Filter function, we're going to wrap this now. Filter. This is the array, so the combination of these two functions returns an array. Okay. Now, what do we want to look for? We want to return a match of trues and falses. So if this array returns a false, we don't want to include it in the filter function, but if it returns a true, that's what we want to return. So now we're gonna filter this by that. Okay, just a second. Okay, the array, first argument is the array. So let's go over here. Let's highlight this entire range. Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control backspace. So we want to filter this range based upon the results for the second argument. Backspace, and let's do that. Press enter. So now we got this result set. Why did we get this? Because we're filtering on the value of Walmart within this column right here. So it finds Walmart anywhere in these in this column G, and then it returns the results for all instances of where column G equals Walmart, as you can see here. Now, if we go a step further, let's say that we only want to return certain columns. So now we're going to utilize the index function here with the array constant. So index equal index. So this is the array that we want. We're not passing in a column or a row argument to the index function. We're passing a column argument with the array constant. Now I'm going to use this example here. We want to return columns 1, 3, and 5 of this array and press enter, and we get the first instance of the filtered array. Again, let's go back here to index. Why does it return only the first row? It's because the index is designed to return values from a specific row and column. And if we pass it an array constant, Excel assumes that you want to return specified columns from the first row only. Okay. Now let's go over to choose cols function and how we could use the filter function to return only specified columns. So let's look at this formula here. Okay, it's a long formula. Okay, we're going to do the same process. I won't go through step by step, but we're searching for a specified value, which is Walmart in this case, and then we're checking if the search function returns a number or not. That's where isNumber comes into play. And then we pass that as the second argument to the filter function. And the filter function is going to return the values, okay, that the second argument returned. And then we're going to wrap it with the choose cols function. The choose cols function is we're going to pass it an array, which is everything within the filter function that returns. And now what do we want? We look at the filtered results of that, and what specified columns do we want to return? And that's what these numbers here represent. We want to only return specified columns from this filtered array. Okay, so if I change this, watch what happens if I included another column within that filter result. You'll see we'll get also the sixth column, which is here. So I know this was an in-depth explanation of all these different functions, but I wanted to give you an example of how you can integrate multiple functions and talk to you about constant arrays and how you could utilize that within different functions. Again, hopefully this tutorial was helpful and in depth for you to understand all this. And remember to subscribe to my channel because I release a new video every single week talking about issues like this. And you'll also get notified when a new video uploads. And also to please like and comment because this will help with the YouTube algorithm, and which means that this video will get out to more people as they search for what they're looking for. Again, thank you for stopping by and spending time here today, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.